Hey, how's it going, everybody? And welcome back into Mock Draft Week here on the SFS channel, where for 7 days straight, I am posting a fantasy football mock draft in addition to the other content that I post here regularly on the channel. Today is actually day 4. Yesterday on Wednesday's video, I got a little bit ahead of myself. I was excited. I thought we were getting through the week. I work another job on top of doing YouTube here, so maybe I was just on the inside hoping that it was already Thursday, but it was only the middle of the week and Wednesday. But it's Thursday for real now, or at least the time I'm posting this video and the time that this video will be hitting YouTube for you all. So today we've got an interesting mock draft. I've done one other of these on the channel here, and I actually kind of goofed up the settings a bit in that video as well. We're doing a SuperFlex mock draft today. So what does that mean? Essentially, SuperFlex leagues take fantasy football, if you're new to this platform, this setting of fantasy football, to the next level. It is much more complicated. The positional scarcity, which is something I'm going to talk a lot more in depth about in tomorrow's video, where I dive deep into draft strategy for this season. You got to think extra hard about every pick, the value on the table, what positions are most of need, what's the most pressing and urgent issue that you need to address. Because whereas in our normal one quarterback leagues, the running back position is by far outside of tight end, but I would say to a greater extent in importance of addressing, the running back position is the thinnest group that you have to start multiple positions of in your fantasy lineup. So we've all got to start 2 running backs. So if you're talking about a 12-team fantasy league, starting 2 RBs for every one of those teams is going to mean that 24 of the potential 32 starting running backs in the National Football League are being played in someone's starting lineup each and every single week, and that doesn't even take into consideration the flex players. 2 QB leagues here, these SuperFlex leagues, this is where things get ramped up a notch and become much more important for that position as well. They become just as thin, if not thinner than running backs, because you can find RBs that are the second string or reserve players on their teams putting up points, but you almost always have to have a starting quarterback in your lineup in order to get the best value from them as possible. So the SuperFlex position, I'll show you guys down here before we get started if you're new around here. If not, just skip ahead a couple minutes and we should be in the draft by then. This is a spot where a quarterback, running back, tight end, or wide receiver can be played. So you don't have to start 2 quarterbacks, but it's probably one of the best and safest options out there, and it gives you a lot of versatility with that flex position, and very, very much so increases the value of quarterbacks in these leagues because they can go punch for punch with basically any position in terms of week-to-week consistency and upside. So without further ado, we've got the 1.7 draft pick in today's video. What are we going? I think we went 17 rounds. I think I might have tacked one. Nope, just 16. I thought I had tacked on an extra round on there by adding in that SuperFlex spot. But nonetheless, let's get things, here we go. Let's get things started here and see who falls to us at that 1.7 pick. So it'll be interesting to see, when these quarterback runs go with the ADP here. We don't have any Discord or subscribers in this mock draft, but we will have that for Saturday's episode, as Friday night we'll be all recording that video together and getting that out to you guys. So if you want to become a part of that, make sure to head down and join the free community Discord. The link to that is in the description of today's video. We've got ourselves some choices here. 6 straight running backs. This is also a half PPR league. You probably could have saw that if you popped or paused those settings from earlier on, but I'll just tell you here, this is a SuperFlex half PPR mock draft. So not quite full PPR, but not quite a standard league. We're meeting in the middle and keeping things very balanced in today's video. I think I'm going to go with Ezekiel Elliott here. I think this is the pick I like most. He would be my highest ranked running back still on the board at this point in time. And I think that the running back position is far more valuable than the wide receiver position. Obviously, going back to that positional scarcity that I just touched on in the opener of today's video. And I think especially in a SuperFlex mock draft where you have 2 positions that are very, very thin potentially that you need to address, I don't see any reason why we should be out here jumping the gun on wideouts early when you've got 2 legitimate shots or spots in your lineup that need to be taken care of early on and often here. So Ezekiel Elliott, my top ranked running back, as I said, he'll be my first pick off the board here. The volume is great in that Dallas offense. Very talented. He's a veteran now. Maybe not quite in the peak of his prime right now, but still a very darn good player nonetheless. Let's check out that running back crop one more time. You know, for being a SuperFlex league, I hate in 1 QB leagues when we pick Pat Mahomes this early on with a second-round pick. That's where he's going in 1 quarterback leagues. But he might be, and again, I'm absolutely against doing that when there is so much positional depth in those 1 QB leagues. But in this SuperFlex setting, when I can start 2 quarterbacks on a week-to-week basis, it elevates the importance. It makes me more apt and willing to take a quarterback at this spot. And I think that if I'm going to go out and get the best player at their position at that spot, I might as well do it here because I'm not too in love with the Joe Mixon. And like I talked about in the first round there are some great wide receivers on the board at this spot, but I am certainly not attached to reaching for one of those players. Well, it's technically not a reach based off of ADP, but my draft strategy tells me here that I want to go out there, find the value at those other positions, and capitalize on those spots early so I don't get left hanging high and dry later on in the draft. So I never thought I'd do this in a video this fantasy season, but again, this is SuperFlex, so you can start 2 quarterbacks in your lineups. I'm taking Patrick Mahomes here at the 2-6. The middle of the 6th round is a bit higher than his current ADP, but I think it's justified and warranted for the sole fact that you can have those 2 quarterbacks in the lineup spot. Otherwise, you won't see me taking a quarterback until any earlier than the 4th round in a traditional 1 quarterback league setting. So, boom, 3 tight ends go off the board in a span of just 6 draft picks there. That's pretty crazy to see. I do like the running backs at this spot a lot here. A sneaky play could be to stack Josh Allen and Pat Mahomes in that flex spot, but there has not been a run on quarterbacks yet, so I'm not, you don't want to be in the back end of the run just reaching for bottom of the barrel talent at that draft spot, but I also don't really want to start it here when there's still crazy value on the table. I do, however, really like the running backs that are still available at this spot. So I'm going to take my best available, David Montgomery, make sure I've got a really strong top 2 secured at that position. Again, this is half PPR, and Ezekiel Elliott and David Montgomery are not world beaters in the pass game, but they are very, very good players in terms of their ability to not only see high volume, but they're not so bad as pass catchers. They can get the job done. They can get you the production you need when they're utilized in that area of the game. So, I'm liking how this team is coming together here. Again, I'm not typically a person who's going to be in favor of taking quarterbacks that early in the draft, but having 2 quarterback spots makes me reevaluate the position here as we move into the 4th round. Josh Allen, the 2nd quarterback overall, goes off the board, so still not a crazy run on quarterbacks happening just yet. So that's something to keep an eye on here. The running back group has officially reached a point where I'm ready to fade them for a round or 2, move on to another spot. I could go after a Mark Andrews here, but I would rather wait for a TJ Hawkinson, who I actually have as my tight end for this season. I doubt he'll make it back to me, though. It might be wide receiver time, and I think that's what I'm going to end up doing here. Kind of an unusual stack for me, but I think I'm going to, I've got Chris Godwin and Ceedee Lamb ranked right up next to one another in my half PPR top 24 wide receivers video. That actually just came out yesterday if you want to go check that out. Chris Godwin is actually the higher ranked player of the 2 for me, but based on the floor that my team already has here, that's the type of play I see Chris Godwin as. I don't think the Buccaneers wide receivers ceilings are as high as we might want them to be this season or might expect them to be at face value, but I definitely think that the Cowboys offense, and CeeDee Lamb in particular, gives me an elite ceiling for his draft position. So I'm going to go on a limb here. I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb. I've got both of these players ranked as high-end wide receiver 2 candidates, so I think that, they're both going to be very stable options. And I'm going to, again, you see Cooper and Lamb go back-to-back picks there. I'm going to go in the favor of the draft pick that I think has the higher upside because of how I've already constructed this team. So here go the quarterbacks, 3 of them taken within the last round or so, the last 12 or so draft picks. Let's check out that running back room one more time. Reportedly, Travis Etienne has been uncoverable at Jags camp, but is that really a testament to how elite he would be as a route runner, as a wide receiver? Or is that more so just kind of a knock that the Jags can't cover anybody? I don't know. You tell me. I'm not going to be the judge of that. But the Jags did have the number 1 overall pick last season for a reason. So I wouldn't read too much into that and expect him to do any crazy things as a pass catcher this year. Another interesting strategy. So I actually do have TJ Hawkinson, who fell down to me here. Another upside play I could go with is to draft Tyler Lockett. Deontay Johnson would be a fine option as well. But I absolutely love Tyler Lockett's upside this fantasy season. I have ranted about it video after video. But I've picked him so many times in a row, and already I think a couple times in mock draft week here. So I'm going to change up the draft strategy, give you a different perspective, and just for the sake of keeping things organic and different here on the channel, giving you insight on different players and not just drafting the same team over and over again. We're going with Hawk here. In June, I was all over these 5th-round tight ends, and I've gotten a little bit away from it. I've discovered that while I do love making those draft picks, the incredible receiver value in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round is sometimes too good to pass on. We'll go that route here in today's SuperFlex Mock Draft, though. I really love how this top 5-man lineup has come together here. I have TJ Hawkinson ahead of Mark Andrews as my tight end for this season. Kyle Pitts, I'm a bit lower on him than the rest of the fantasy consensus. He's my tight end 6, and technically that's where the ADP has him ranked, but I'm much lower on him, much more hesitant to draft him because I think the floor is a lot lower than people give him credit for, and the ceiling is there for sure. But if you've been around here, you just know my gripe with tight ends in year 1, how it's such a tough transition for those players at that position to make in year 1. So I'm a little bit more cautious on him than most are, but TJ Hawkinson's got the chance to lead that Lions roster in targets and just be a PPR volume machine this season, even if he's not incredibly efficient with his touches. So now we're getting into the 6th round here. I'm not ready to take a Russell Wilson because I think that the upside is just right there with Aaron Rodgers. You can make a case that Tom Brady, Jalen Hurts can give you that type of ceiling. Their floors aren't quite as good, but Russ Wilson's floor is not that great either. I've already got myself my elite number 1 quarterback. I would feel great having Ryan Tannehill, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow as that super flex player. I don't want to wait too long here because at the end of the day, I think what gives you the best upside at that super flex spot is to have a really good second quarterback, especially when we've already locked down 2 solid running backs. But we're going to wait around here, see what happens, reevaluate that group, reassess in the coming picks here. For now, I love me some Brandon Ayuk. I could take my second wide receiver. Man, we're running out of time. Man, I really want to take Javonte, but Ayuk is too good to pass on. He's been reportedly, again, out of training camp, the favorite passing target in the entire 49ers offense ahead of Debo or George Kittle for all 4 of the current 49ers quarterbacks on the roster. That speaks to something. That just shows you that he is not a one-trick pony. He's got a complete game. He is good at the line of scrimmage, catching screen passes, being used as a run threat on jet sweeps. And he's dang good down the field running routes too. Like, this guy has such a complete game. He is such a solid player. You can't overstate the value he has to that team. So I'm going to go out there. Ceedee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, the young wide receiver core, 2-year 2 players. But I'm still really liking how this group is coming together. Again, I've got the chance, the opportunity here to draft Aaron Rodgers into that super flex spot right now. And I'm really strongly considering that. I mean, you're talking about 2 quarterbacks who not necessarily will finish as top 5 quarterbacks, but that's absolutely the upside that's in play here. And something I really love about making this pick, I'd have the 2 State Farm quarterbacks, of course. But man, these guys don't throw interceptions. They're about as safe and as consistent as it gets. They were both SFS consistency kings last year which means they met their floor value, their floor metric that we had set for them in our draft guide. You can go check that out. It's something really interesting that we're putting together this season, and that'll come to a culmination and ultimately be finished. And I mean, there's the stats and the raw numbers are already there, but I'm going to make an in-depth video explaining and putting into context what all that stuff means. That'll be out by the end of the weekend with the completion of that draft guide. But man, these two players were as elite as they got in terms of their fantasy floors the season ago, and they were right there with their ceilings as well. So Pat didn't play in the end of the year because they had the bye week secured. Rodgers threw 48 touchdowns. That's probably going to come down. But here in the middle of the 7th round, give me that safe floor, that consistency in my SuperFlex spot, rolling out 2 of the game's best quarterbacks on a weekly basis. That could be something very, very dangerous to have in the lineup here. So, man, and things have played out perfectly, picture perfect here. Trey Sermon is still on the board. So not only do I have myself 2 starting running backs I feel very confident in terms of their fantasy floors, Zeke has a really nice ceiling as well. And David Montgomery is not a player we think of for his floor performance, but if you watched him down the stretch of last season, you know a thing or two about the ceiling value he possesses. I love pairing Trey Sermon here as my 3rd running back off the board. Definitely not an early season start. Definitely not a player I'm depending on within the first half of the season to give me production. But man, if he gets a crack at a starting role in a week or so, if you see Raheem Mostert go down, this backfield gets thinned up, even if this committee-style system just nets him enough carries and enough touches, he is going to run right through defenses, be one of the best league-winning options this season. The running back position, going back to the scarcity there, it's so hard to find players that are giving you elite upside on a week-to-week basis, and he is exactly the type of player that can do those things for us. So, man, I really like that pick there. Very, very happy that ended up working out and falling down to us. The starting lineup here is looking fantastic. Trey Sermon is technically penciled in as a flex right now. He's probably not going to fulfill that role for this team right away, but eventually he could get there and really increase the upside of this unit. And I'm going to keep investing into upside here. We spent the majority of the early phase of this draft, Pat Mahomes, Ezekiel Elliott, David Montgomery, TJ Hawkinson, Aaron Rodgers. Those are all safe floor picks. They've all got their own respective upside, but they're much so floor over ceiling players. I'm going to go out and grab a Jalen Waddle here, and I'm going to increase that ceiling. Waddle's not going to be a guy that comes out here, catches 10, 11 passes in a game, but he's going to be a guy that can go out there and catch you 3 for 90 and 2 touchdowns. And I mean that, not expecting that as a weekly performance, but that's the type of upside, the explosive ability this kid has. I mean, his comp was Tyreek Hill for a reason. He's a small, thicker player who has had some injury issues. You expect that when a player is that fast. I mean, hamstrings can become somewhat bothersome. He's had some ankle stuff too, I believe. But nonetheless, he's going to come in here. He's got some chemistry with Tua Tagovailoa at that quarterback spot for the Dolphins. Hopefully they can hit things off on the right foot right away. Will Fuller will start the season off the field, so if he can get that connection down and carve out a role for himself, establish him as the number 1 option in that offense, he was the number 6 overall pick, they're going to use him. And maybe he's not the most refined player, but his routes are dang good even at this phase in his career. He should come out here and be a big-time high upside play. And Miami should like the weapons they're working with this season. So back to us here in the 10th round. Tough choices. I'm looking at a Michael Gallup, Antonio Brown, Corey Davis right now. Hopefully Darnell Mooney might be available at the next pick. He is easily one of my most drafted players without question this season. The amount of times I've hit the draft button on Darnell Mooney has been ridiculous. We're going to go with, looks like a slight reach, but we're going to go for Corey Davis at this spot. I just like his upside and honestly his floor. Wow, there goes Darnell Mooney. So forget the chances of that ever happening. But back to what I was saying. Give me some Corey Davis. I think that he has a legit shot to be the number 1 receiver in the Jets offense this season. Not long term. Eventually, Elijah Moore is going to come in, take control of that job, and be the clear number 1 option. Obviously, him and Zach Wilson are both rookies, both high upside players, explosive. Wilson can get out of the pocket, make plays downfield. But I think for, looking through tunnel vision here. At Corey Davis's standalone value in 2021, there's a legit chance, like I said, that he comes out here, is very efficient like he was with the Titans, sees an increase in volume and reps, the amount of passes thrown his way, and just gives us some really quality wide receiver 2 looks. I mean, he might have some fringe wide receiver 1 performances. At the end of the day, this is still the Jets. This is not an offense typically that you're going to be riding home about and just have all the faith and confidence in the world that they're going to give you these monster numbers. But he is a player who can get it done. He has talent at the quarterback spot. He has his own talent, being a former first-round pick and showing us that he can produce last season. So it's going to be a matter of finding a happy medium here, getting on the same page with that rookie, Zach Wilson, of course, and then just getting the job done. So, Tony Pollard went off the board. That throws a wrench in my plans here. I was going to handcuff Zeke because I saw that Mooney went. That's not going to work out now, and I've only got 30 short seconds to make a draft pick. How about this one? How's this for you? Back on the Rashad Bateman bandwagon, our boy Marquise Hollywood Brown. Not really our boy, because I'm not a fan at all. Haven't been a fan of him since he came into the league. I've always been skeptical about his size. I don't care that he's short, but he's always been so twig-like and skinny that I just had major durability concerns. What did he come in the league with? A Liz Frank injury, which isn't a good thing to have either for a speed demon. Bateman's got a clear-cut path right now to walk into that Ravens offense and be the number 1 threat in this offense. Definitely the best route runner Lamar Jackson has on the field. Definitely has the potential to be the most polished player. He could come out here and be one of these. My comp was Devontae Adams for him. He's not quite the most athletic player. He's not quite the most flashy player. But he's got a lot of traits that can be refined to a beyond elite level and just make him a force to reckon with. And despite the fact that he's not going to have elite upside in that Ravens passing offense, he'll still get the job done. I'm confident that he can do at least enough of what we need from him to be fantasy relevant this season. And again, especially without Brown on the field, he will be a very, very quality option here. So, again, I am loving this team. I might go a 4th straight receiver here because I just don't like the running backs. Like, these are all plain and simply, excuse me, they're all handcuffs. None of these players really have standalone value outside of J.D. McKissic and Kenneth Gainwell, and it's not enough standalone value to make me want to take them over a Russell Gage at the spot, who, again, right next to Darnell Mooney is probably my next most drafted player here on the channel. I do it nearly every video. He's just in a high-volume passing offense, stepping up into a better situation, a better role with the team this year. Had 110 targets last year. Will have more this season if he stays healthy. The touchdowns haven't been elite, so you never know. That could pop. And he's got a bad defense. Matt Ryan's going to be throwing the ball late, trying to stay in games. It should be a fun situation to watch there in Atlanta. So Russell Gage is a great pick to make this season. Something to note here with that Carson Wentz injury, I think T.Y. Hilton's value is pretty much stagnant now, and I'm not too high on him whatsoever. I had him as a sleeper with that deep ball ability with Carson Wentz, but that's definitely getting taken down off the site now, and I'll have to update his profile now that Wentz is injured because that changes things completely. Obviously, when Wentz comes back, if that's the case, things might change back a little bit in the more positive direction, but for the time being, that's a no bueno for me. Ooh, okay, I see something I like here. I'm going to try and come back and get him. Just for the sake of adding running back depth here, we don't have too many draft picks left to make. We've only got 3 bench spots left to fill. I'm going to take... Oh, man, but J.D. McKissic's probably not going to see... All right, change of plans. We're going Kenneth Gainwell. So I was going to take J.D. McKissic because of how excellent he was as a receiving back last year. But Antonio Gibson is clearly a player who can do that as well. Kenneth Gainwell is more of a specialized player, whereas Miles Sanders isn't bad at catching the ball, but he definitely doesn't excel at it either. Gainwell is being split out into the slot. I think he was a Memphis running back. So they've been using those type of players, Tony Pollard, Darrell Henderson in the past, as pass catchers. And Gainwell was even more shifty, used as a slot weapon. So I think the Eagles, just being as desperate as they are for pass catching talent, might decide to go out and use him slightly that way. So there's definitely upside there. Maybe he becomes a flex play as a guy who has standalone value with that receiving role. You never know what might shape out here and how players might be used. So there is 2 players I'm a big fan of on the board right now. I'm going to take the first of them. I talked about them in yesterday's video, I believe it was. Yes, I did draft Tre'Quan Smith. The Saints need to throw the ball to somebody. I don't care if it's Adam Troutman. I don't care if it's Tre'Quan Smith. I don't care if it's another random person they pick up off or bring to the active roster from their practice squad. Somebody has to. And Fitzmagic went. I was going to bring him in as my 3rd quarterback to give me some excellent depth there. Here's the other thing we'll do. We're going to turn around. Oh, man, he'll be there at the last pick. Jameis Winston will be there. So I think I capitalize on the defense now. But regardless, the point being here, the Saints will need to have somebody involved in the passing game or they are going to stink it up. Kamara's a great pass catcher. They have a really good offensive line, really good running threats out of the backfield. Latavius Murray, they brought in Devontae Freeman, and obviously Kamara was the RB1 last season. But you got to flip the ball out somewhere. You got to get the ball in the hands of somebody. Get those explosive, efficient plays in the pass game. Tre'Quan Smith, in my opinion, is just, he's been there. I think this is year 3 or 4 now. He's got some nice raw skill. I just figured that with this much time, he should be able to make something of it here. So, LA Rams defense, I'm going to take them because I think that my other player will still be there on the board at the next spot when the rest of the teams are picking defenses, and I wanted to make sure that I got the defense of my choosing. And then we're going to turn around here and draft famous Jameis Winston, who I hope, for the sake of all Saints pass catchers, and Alvin Kamara, who is also a rushing threat, on top of being a very dynamic pass catcher, that Jameis is the quarterback over Taysom. Taysom will have standalone fantasy value as a weird tight end or whatever the heck he was in years past in fantasy. But in terms of his ability to pass the ball, find other players, get them in the spots they need to be in, please, 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 please. Jameis Winston has his flaws. He's not a perfect player. He's a bit of a reckless player at times. But make the right choice here. Get the ball in the hands of the guy who is a traditional quarterback. He can get outside the pocket, make throws downfield, make the big play, excite the team. Again, he's going to throw some wild picks. He's probably going to have a high interception number. But just weigh your options here. And I think that at the end of the day, playing Tim Tebow 2.0 isn't going to get the Saints very far in a division with the Buccaneers, where at least you have a puncher's chance when your quarterback is gunslinging in those 2 games every year. But Pat Mahomes is our starting quarterback in this SuperFlex league. We went early quarterback, which is something I typically never do here on the channel, just because of the fact that I could get an elite positional advantage at that spot. Ezekiel Elliott and David Montgomery cap off my top 2 running backs, with Trey Sermon being the number 3 there, and hopefully a league winner down the stretch. Ceedee Lamb and Brandon Ayuk are my top 2 wideouts, a little bit thin at that position, and a little bit of question marks and uncertainty regarding, are they wide receiver 1s, are they wide receiver 2s, where do they fit in that list? They're probably middle of the pack, high upside wide receiver 2s who have the chances to be fringe wide receiver 1s, but with how the rest of this roster is constructed, I feel pretty good about the team. TJ Hawkinson is my tight end for this season, and we locked him up in the 5th round. I really like that pick as a safe floor option in half PPR scoring. And then Aaron Rodgers, pairing him with Patrick Mahomes. He'll be a weekly starter with Patty. 2 of the safest options in fantasy, and if I get the chance to start 2 of them in my lineup every week, I'm going to do that. You see here, week 12 and week 13 might be a little bit shaky as they both have bye weeks, but not something to factor too heavily into your draft day decision making. The Rams defense, that's my number 1 defense overall on the board. I think they're second to Washington for me. And then Jalen Waddle, Corey Davis, Rashad Bateman, Russell Gage, Tre'Quan Smith, all sleeper-esque wide receivers. Maybe not so much Jalen Waddle, who's being picked fairly high, but the rest of those players, they're not too demanding of draft capital, and they've got really nice upside themselves. And then Kenneth Gainwell and Jameis Winston, the other 2 picks there to kind of wrap things up today. Kenneth Gainwell just giving us some depth and some standalone value at that pass-catching running back spot, and then Jameis Winston as our 3rd quarterback, who, if he takes a hold of that starting role, could be a very dominant weekly threat. And if, Aaron or Patrick have a really, really tough game on the schedule, which I know Rodgers does for sure. He has a brutal schedule this season with the Packers. Toss Jameis in there. Maybe he has a lighter opponent and can light up the board a bit and score us some good points. So that'll do it for today's mock draft. And thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. Let me know down in the comment section. Let me know down in the comment section below. Did you enjoy the SuperFlex mock draft style? Do you prefer when I do videos that are more traditional, one quarterback style fantasy leagues? I'd love to hear your input. Obviously, that's how I'll cater my videos for next time and keep things in the general scope of what you're interested in, what you guys want to watch and see here from the SFS channel. So again, thank you all so much for watching. If you want to be a part of Mock Draft Monday or subscriber Mock Draft Saturday, again, go check out that free community Discord invite link in the description of today or any video here on the channel. We'd love to have you in there. We appreciate everyone in there. And I love interacting with each and every single one of you, answering questions, helping you guys out with your leagues, making trades, rejecting trades a lot of the times because people are trying to lowball the heck out of you. But we do it all in there. We have a great time. Again, you can comment your questions down below as well, and I'll be sure to get back to you. So thank you all. I'll see you next time. Peace out.